Contractions are words used in the English language. Two words are shortened to make one word, and an apostrophe replaces the missing letter or letters. You are equals your. We use contractions every day when we speak or when we write. We're going to the park. Dear Grandma, I'm so happy you're coming to visit. You can recognize contractions because they are words that contain a special mark called an apostrophe, but not all words with apostrophes are contractions. Contractions are shortened forms of combining two words together to make one word. For example, if I wrote the sentence, I am playing, I could make the words I and am into a contraction. By replacing the A with an apostrophe, I am now becomes the contraction I'm, making my new sentence, I'm playing. Let's look at another example. He did not do his homework. I could make the words did not into a contraction. By replacing the O with an apostrophe, did not becomes the contraction didn't, making my new sentence, he didn't do his homework. Let's look at this sentence. She is reading books. I could make the words she is into a contraction. By replacing the I with an apostrophe, she is becomes the contraction she's. She's reading books. We use contractions every day when we speak and write. There are so many contractions to learn. Can't, your, isn't, it's, I'm, she'll, there, hasn't, we're, don't, shouldn't, he's, didn't, aren't, I'll, doesn't, could've, wasn't. There are many more. Hooray! You get a gold medal for your introduction to contractions. Thank you for joining me at Grammar.
I am thinking about cats. I'm thinking about cats. The cat does not like the ball. The cat doesn't like the ball. Where is the cat? There is the cat.
Oh no.
Boo.
That's all it takes to scare anyone. The boo. Get out of nowhere.
Where's the cat?
There. Right there.
There's the cat.
Let us review.
I am, I'm. Does not, doesn't. Where is, where's. There is, there's.
should already have a date. Now you can add. Contractions. And then the date, February 10th, 2021. Now you've talked about contractions probably every year since first grade. We're just going to go a little more in depth, as in we're going to review all the ones you've already learned, all in one lesson. Okay, first of all, what is a contraction? Well, as we learned in first, second, third grade, and in the video we just watched, a contraction is a word that combines two words but leaves out some letters. So contractions, they're words that combine two words, but they just leave out some letters. So what is the name of a word that combines two words, but doesn't leave out any letters? What kind of word is that? Smith.
A compound word.
A compound word, like?
And Miss Follis.
Yes.
You're also really frozen and super glitchy. I can't even read the board.
Hold on.
So can I.
Okay, so yes, Smith, a word that combines two words but does not leave out letter is a compound word, like raindrop. Raindrop is made up of the words rain and the word drop. We put it together. We don't leave out any words. We have a compound word. But a contraction is a word that combines two words but leaves out some letters, like don't. Now, we don't just leave them out. We have to add something to them to let people know that we left some words out. So, in contractions, we also have an apostrophe. Now, we talked a lot about apostrophes with possessive nouns. So remember in the video, the girl said, just because a word has an apostrophe doesn't mean it's a contraction. Because remember, possessive nouns have apostrophes, like, you don't have to write this, Ethan's pencil. Ethan's is not a combination of two words. It's just saying he has a pencil. But if I did this, that's not saying that Ethan has a pencil. That says there's more than one Ethan. So apostrophes are used in contractions, but they're also used to show that a noun is possessive, not plural. In contractions, an apostrophe replaces the letters, oops, I don't know why I said P-H-E-T, the letters that are left out of a contraction. So again, contraction. Well, it's a word that combines two words but leaves some letters out. Apostrophes are used in contractions to replace the letters that are left out. So here are some example contractions. Bless you. Yes, you do need to write these. Don't. Couldn't. She'll. He's. Notice. What do you notice about this I? Colin?
It's capital.
It's capital because it's a contraction for I and then another word. Anytime, excuse me, anytime our contraction includes the word I, as in I, it must be capitalized. Does everybody understand? Because anytime I'm talking about I, as in me, I, what do we always do with that I? Aaron?
We always capitalize.
Always capitalize it, no matter where it is. Your. One more example. Should've. Those are all example contractions. Are those all the contractions that exist, class? No, there's way more. But these contractions are some of the more common, the most common uses of contractions. Now you may be thinking, why are we talking about contractions when we just talked about helping verbs? Well, that's because a lot of times when we use helping verbs, we turn them into contractions. Think of the videos we watched. She is running, or whatever it said. She is something. She is running. We don't necessarily say she is running. Usually what we say is she's running. So a lot of helping verbs become the part of the contraction that loses words. Unless we use not, in which case we're combining not with a helping verb most of the time. So now we're going to learn how do we form contractions. You've already learned most of these, so we're basically doing a review of how to form all contractions. We're not going to have a list of every contraction, but we are going to use not, all the forms of be, and all the forms of, well, one form of have to make contractions. So next, you're just writing lists of how to form contractions using certain helping verbs, or not. Okay, I have to erase because I need space. So if you are not ready yet, you've had lots of time, you may just have to go back and watch the video later, because you have had lots of time. I am willing to give you extra time, but I cannot give you like 5 minutes extra for each bit of notes. I can give you like a minute or two extra, but I can't give like 5 minutes extra. So, first, let's talk about, so skip like 2 lines, and let's talk about contractions with the word not. How do we form contractions with the word not? Remember, how many words does a contraction how many words does a contraction combine? Carla?
2 words.
2. So keep that in mind, because I will be writing at the end of the first word quite a few times today. You'll be writing that too. So understand that means the end of the first word, not the second. Like the first word, you'll see what I mean. So, how do you form contractions with not? Well, remove the O. Remember that dash O means letter O. Remove the letter O in not. Put the letter N at the end of the first word. Put an apostrophe where the O was. Then add the letter T. So, to form contractions with not, you remove the O in not, put an N at the end of the first word, put an apostrophe, then add the letter T. For example, do not. How do we write do not as a contraction? I'm going to pick sticks because everybody can do this. Mason, how do we turn do not into a contraction? So spell it for me. Spell it. D-O from do. We put the N from not at the end of the first word. We put an apostrophe and then we add the T. So you can see the apostrophe replaces the O. All the other letters stay the same. Was not. Zadie.
Wasn't.
How do I spell it? So tell me how to spell it.
W-A-S.
So we have was. Our first word's not going to change.
E-N.
Do we ever add E? When we have contractions with not, does it say to add an E? No. What does it say to do next? We have our first word. What do we do next?
Add.
We put an N because it says put N at the end of the first word. Does was end with E?
No.
So does it say put an E at the end of the first word?
No.
No. Now what?
You put an apostrophe.
I put an apostrophe. And now what?
Then you add T.
And then I put T. So again, we can see the apostrophe replaces the O. Did not. Lena, what is the contraction for did not? Didn't. How do we spell that?
D-I-D.
D-I-D, our first word.
N.
N, because we put an N at the end of the first word.
Apostrophe.
Apostrophe, because we put an apostrophe.
T.
T, because we add T. So again, the apostrophe replaced the O. So basically what we do with contractions is we squish the two words together, remove some words, and replace them with an apostrophe. So that's how we form contractions with not. Now there's one exception. And it just means you have to remember. You have to memorize it. There's one exception. That is will not. Now, if we followed the rules, we would write it this way. Do not write it this way. We would write the first word. We would move the the N from not to the end. We would replace the O with an apostrophe, and then we would put the T. But is willn't a word? Have you ever heard that before in your life? Willn't. I willn't go to the mall with you tomorrow. Do we say that? What do we say instead? Zari.
Wouldn't.
That would be would not, which would follow the rules. W-O-U-L-D, N apostrophe T. So that wouldn't would be the contraction for would not will not. What do we write? Cullen.
Will not.
I'm trying to make a contraction. We can make a contraction, but it's not willn't. Come on, guys, think. You're just saying the first thing that comes to your mind. So you said wouldn't, because you were like, oh, I would just say I wouldn't. But if you think about it, you're like, but wait, would is completely different from will. So that can't be it. Aaron?
I'm not.
Nope, that's a contraction for I and M. Not, will not. Victoria? Think. Won't. We wouldn't say we willn't. We wouldn't say I wouldn't because that's a contraction for would not. We wouldn't say I'm not going to the store because I'm is a contraction for I am, not will not. We say won't. W-O-N-T. And that's just something you have to memorize. It doesn't follow any rules. You just have to remember it. Will not, when we make it a contraction, is not won't. If we went backwards and we're like, okay, well, won't, I know if I have not, that means I replace the O with an apostrophe. So if I went backwards and said, okay, well, N apostrophe T means not, and I know whatever comes before the N is the first word. Is woe not anything at all? Is W-O a word? No. So will not is just something you have to remember becomes won't, not will it. So will not does not follow the rules. It just doesn't. Okay, so now we're done with not. These are not, of course, every single word that goes with not, but it's an idea. Now you know if you're trying to make a contraction with not, you're going to add N apostrophe T to the end of the first word. Next.
Can you tell us?
Yes, Carla?
What does RE mean in like a word, a contraction word?
Please wait. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about contractions with am. The helping verb am. This only works with I. Can you use am with a subject other than I? Can you use the verb am with anything other than I? Can you say she am going to the store today? Or the cats am meowing on the porch? Can you, class? No. So this only works with I. So there's only one example, period, of making a contraction with am. This is how you do it. Remove the letter A. Put an apostrophe after I. Add the letter M. So to create a contraction with am, there's only one word. You can combine with am to create a contraction. It's the word I. What you do is you remove the A, put an apostrophe after I, and add the letter M. So for example, I am becomes what? Zari. am becomes what word? Tell me the word, the
I'm.
contraction. I'm. How do I spell it?
I''M.
We put our first word I. We put an apostrophe at the M, at the end, and then we add the letter M.
There's something wrong.
Am I finished? Am I done? Did I do it right? What happened? Smith, what did I do wrong?
You made the I lowercase.
I made the I lowercase. If we're making a contraction with I, it is always, always, always what, Smith?
Capital.
Capital. Very good. Okay, that's it for contractions with am, because that's literally the only one we can make. There's no other one we can make. If you do, you're wrong. It's just, there's no such thing as she am, which means there's no such thing as sheem. It just doesn't exist. Okay. I don't think I can fit the next one. So I am going to have to erase. Next is contractions with is. A helping verb, another helping verb like am. Yes, quickly.
Is it going to be very long?
Hmm?
Because I don't really have.
You can start on there, it's okay. Since it's all gonna be one thing, that's okay. Contractions with is. Well, first, remove the letter I. Put an apostrophe after the first word. Add letter S. So, to form contractions with is, the helping verb or linking verb is, you remove the letter I from is, put an apostrophe after the first word, and then add S. So, for example, she is becomes what word, Ethan? She's. How do we spell that? S-H-E. So far, have we seen a time where we take off words from the first word? No, we haven't. So when we make contractions, do we take off letters from the first word? No, only the, how many words are there total in a contraction? 2. If we don't take words, letters off the first word, we take letters off the second word. So to change she is into a contraction, we take the first word she, then what? I put an apostrophe after the first word, and then I do what? Add S. So she is becomes she's. What about it is? Carla, what is the contraction for
It.
it's going to be its? How do I spell that, Carla? I-T, because we write our first word. Then what comes next?
Apostrophe.
We put an apostrophe, and then we add
The S.
S. What if I wanted to write Sally is. Notice, capital S, because Sally is the specific name of a person, so Sally is what kind of noun? Carla, please turn your camera on. Mason?
A proper noun.
A proper noun. How do I turn Sally is into a contraction? Aaron? Sally's. So how do I spell that?
Sally.
S-A-L-L-Y, because does the first word change? No. What do we need next?
We need apostrophe.
An apostrophe. We put an apostrophe after the first word, and then we need S. Add S. That's it for is. Those aren't the only words, of course. But that's enough that I think you guys should be getting the idea. What word are we going to do next? Well, next, we're going to talk about contractions with will. Now, I don't mean words like will not. I mean where will is this second word out of the two we're shortening. Well, first, what do you remove? Remove the letters W-I. So it's like is and am, where the word at the beginning, the letter at the beginning gets removed, but this time we have two letters that get removed. Next, put an apostrophe after the first word. So we remove W-I. We put an apostrophe after the first word. Then we add the letters L-L. So, I will becomes what word? Victoria. I'll. How do we spell that?
Uppercase I.
Thank you. Capital I, because whenever the contraction includes I, that means we always keep it capital. Okay, what next?
Apostrophe.
Apostrophe. Put an apostrophe after the first word.
LL.
LL. Add LL. So I will becomes I'll. Not aisle like the aisle of the church, but I'll like I will. We will. Kingston. We will becomes what word? I don't know why I capitalized this W. 'Cause
Wheel.
what does it become?
Wheel.
Wheel. How do we spell that? W-H-E-E-L? Like the wheel on a car? No. How do we spell it?
W-E.
W-E, because our first word doesn't change. Apostrophe, because we put an apostrophe after the first word.
LL.
L-L, because we add an apostrophe. We add L-L. One more example. Bob will. Bob will becomes Colin.
Bobble.
Bobble. Not bauble, like B-A-U-B-L is in a shiny little trinket. But how do we spell it?
Capital B.
Good. Why are we capitalizing that B, Colin?
Because it's a person's name.
It's a person's name, so it is a,
Capital B.
well, but if a person's name is an example of what kind of noun?
Oh,
Lena?
pronoun.
Not pronoun. Ethan? Proper noun. Carla, please stop whatever you're doing. You're being very distracting to me and I'm sure the rest of the girls. You need to be focusing. You should be writing right now. So how do we spell it? So we have our capital B.
B-O-B.
O-B because does the first word change?
No.
No. What comes next?
Apostrophe L-L.
Apostrophe because we put an apostrophe after the first word. L-L because then we add L-L. So Bob will becomes Bobble. Bobble go to the store for us. Not Bob will go to the store for us. Bob will go to the store for us. Okay. Well, what are we going to do next? Oops, I didn't mean to write these contractions. Next, we are going to do contractions with R. See, I told you this was a long lesson. Probably not going to have time for independent practice, but that's okay because it's not due till Tuesday. Contractions with R. Well, first, remove the letter A. Put an apostrophe after the first word. I'm writing bigger this time. Yes. Oops, sorry. Remove, not remove. That's not a word. Remove A, put an apostrophe after the first word, add R-E. For example, you are becomes what, Michaela?
Your.
Your. How do we spell that? I don't know why I made this capital Y. I don't want that to be capital. So lowercase it if you also made it capital Y.
I was confused.
You are becomes what? It becomes your. How do we spell that, Michaela?
W-O-U.
Not W-O-U, but
Y-O-U.
Y-O-U because the first word doesn't change.
O-R.
Say it again. You cut out just a little bit.
O-R.
O-R. What comes after the first word, Michaela? Look at your notes. You just wrote them. So as always, we write the first word. What comes after the first word?
Remove an A and add an apostrophe.
We put an apostrophe after the first word. And then we do what? Focus.
We add R.
Just R?
Apostrophe R.
Just apostrophe R. We wrote our first word, you. We put an apostrophe after the first word. Now we add
R-E.
R-E. Michaela, you had just written that, so if you did not write that correctly, you need to go back and write it correctly now. If you write it incorrectly, this is no help at all. It is basically just busy work if you're not writing it correctly, because you won't be able to look back and see exactly what to do. This tells you exactly what to do. Write the first word, put an apostrophe after the first word, add RE. Do you see? Each piece is here. Next. They are becomes what, Mason? How do we say that word? There. How do we spell that? T-H-E-Y, because the first word doesn't change. Apostrophe, because we put an apostrophe after the first word. R-E, because then we add R-E. So they are becomes there. Now these are really important because your and their are something we're going to talk about after the next thing. You know what? We may have to save you are and they are for next Wednesday, but that's okay. But we will go ahead and do one more thing. And then that means that I'll change the independent practice. So I'll send you girls something new at home to do. I think. I'll figure it out. Oh wait, no, we still need to do guided practice. We're not gonna. Okay. Actually, I don't think we need to do guided practice because this is all guided practice, this part. So the guided practice will become the independent practice, okay? We will not have time to finish it today, but you have until Tuesday to finish it. So, I mean, you can turn it in tomorrow, but I promise you it was supposed to be done together, so it's not super difficult. And then we'll do the your and your, there, and there lesson next Wednesday. Okay, next, what are we going to do? We have one more word to talk about, how to make contractions with it. And it is contractions with have. First, remove the letters HA. Remove the letters HA, just like everything except for not. Put an apostrophe after the first word. Then add letters VE. So to make contractions with have, you remove HA, put an apostrophe after the first word, add VE. So, for example, could have becomes what? Victoria. Could have. How do we spell that? C-O-U-L-D, because the first word doesn't change. Apostrophe, because we put an apostrophe after the first word. Then we add VE. Should have becomes what, Zari?
Should have.
Should have. How do we spell that?
S-H-O-U-L-D.
S-H-O-U-L-D, because the first word doesn't change.
Apostrophe Apostrophe.
Apostrophe, because we put an apostrophe after the first word.
VE.
VE. So should have becomes should have. I should have gone to the grocery store today. Last one. We have becomes what, Cullen?
Weave.
Weave. How do we spell that?
W-E
W-E, because our first word doesn't change.
apostrophe
Apostrophe,
V-E.
because we put an apostrophe after the first word. V-E, because then we add V-E. And there we go. Girls at home, go ahead and get out your guided practice. It is becoming independent practice. I will give you 10 minutes to work on it, but let's talk about it first. So everybody, look at the guided practice. Remember, at the top, you have that important information that will help you to figure it out. Then the directions say, read each sentence. Write the contraction for each set of underlined words. So you're going to follow the rules. Look at what word comes second. That is where you will look in your notes. Contraction with blank. Whatever the second word is, you're looking for contractions with second word. Does everybody understand? So if the second word is not, you're looking in your notes for the title, for the heading or the subheading contractions with not. If the second word is will, not if it's the first word. You're looking only at the second word. If the second underlined word is will, you will look for contractions with will, and so on. So you're just rewriting the underlined words as a contraction. You have every single thing you need on your notes. Do you ever change the first word? No. Does the second word ever stay the same? No. So, you have until 1:35 to do that. That is like 7 minutes. If you have questions, I will come around and answer them.